My dear friend, if you're here today, it's no coincidence. The very fact that you're listening to these words in this exact moment is proof that something deep is shifting in your life. In this video, you'll discover the unmistakable signs that you're already walking the path toward true wealth. I'm not just talking about money, but about that deeper kind of wealth, the one that begins in the mind and transforms every aspect of your existence. The kind of wealth that starts as a thought and manifests as reality. You'll learn to recognize the inner transformations that come before every great financial success. You'll understand why certain habits are blooming in your life, like flowers in spring. And most of all, you'll realize that what you're experiencing right now, that restlessness, that hunger for something greater, is not an obstacle to overcome, but a sacred confirmation of your destiny for prosperity. Stay with me until the end, because what I'll share with you today might just be the key you've always been searching for. The answer your soul already knows, but your mind has yet to fully understand. Listen carefully to this fundamental truth that I discovered by studying the greatest empire builders in history. Every great fortune, every significant success, every lasting legacy left by a man of value began first as an invisible seed, more real than money, more powerful than gold. And that seed was not planted in the soil of physical reality, but in the fertile ground of the subconscious mind. This seed does not grow by the ordinary laws of nature, but by the higher laws of the mind. And when a man begins to see the signs that I'll speak to you about today, it means that seed is sprouting. It's breaking through the crust of old beliefs, reaching for the light of manifestation. If you're seeing these signs, it means you're already walking the path to wealth. Not the kind of wealth measured only in currency, but the kind that begins in the mind, where all true riches are born. First sign, growing intolerance for mediocrity. The very first unmistakable sign that you're evolving toward wealth is your growing discomfort with mediocrity. You feel it now more than ever, like an itch beneath the skin that can no longer be scratched away. Where once you tolerated the routines of ordinary life, they now disturb you deeply. It's as if your spirit has awakened from a long sleep and now violently rejects anything small, limited, meaningless. What once seemed acceptable, clocking in without purpose, spending money without direction, surrounding yourself with endless distractions, talking about trivial things, accepting that's just how it is as a final answer, now feels absolutely unbearable. This is not ordinary frustration. This is spiritual awakening. Your higher mind is rejecting what no longer fits the new identity, emerging from within you. It's cleansing, like a spiritual immune system, toxic habits, energy-draining people, and limiting beliefs that once kept you poor. Not just financially poor, but poor in spirit, poor in vision, poor in possibility. Wealth begins the very moment you can boldly say, "This is not me. This is not who I was born to become." This is the first turning point. You're no longer impressed by surface appearances. You're no longer entertained by empty chatter. You want strategy. You want substance. You want freedom, not through luck, but through deliberate intention and focused action. This hunger is a signal. You've crossed an invisible but real threshold. You're starting to walk with the posture of a man who has decided his destiny. And once a man truly decides, the entire universe begins to move to meet him. Second sign, the sacred value of time. Another powerful and unmistakable sign is your growing intolerance for wasted time. Time, you now see with crystal clarity, is the true currency of the rich. It is the one resource that can never be created, only invested wisely. The poor spend time as if it were infinite. Ordinary people trade it for momentary pleasures and instant gratification, but the rich, the true builders of wealth, invest it with the precision of a surgeon and the wisdom of a sage. Every second of your life has now become a sacred brick in the construction of your future. You no longer live for the weekend. You no longer live waiting to escape reality. You live for your vision. You breathe for your purpose. You've learned this fundamental truth. 1 hour spent deliberately building your future is worth more than an entire year spent wishing things would change on their own. And because you've seen this truth with your inner eyes, you've begun to protect your time like a priceless treasure. You say no more often now, not out of arrogance or pride, but out of sacred alignment with your mission. Because you understand that every no spoken to distraction is a powerful yes spoken to your destiny. You've become allergic to empty conversations, to mindless scrolling, to entertainment that doesn't feed your mind. You're no longer available to people who drain your spirit and cloud your focus. You now understand energy is sacred and attention is pure wealth. The man who can control his attention will always control his results. Third sign, mastery of attention and focus. Here is another sign that cannot be ignored. You've begun to master your attention. Where others are reactive like leaves in the wind, you are intentional like an arrow aimed at its target. Where others consume passively, you create actively. Where others chase desperately, you attract magnetically. This happens because you're no longer scattered and fragmented. You are focused and unified. Focus is the hammer that shatters the chains of poverty. When a man is truly focused, he cannot be manipulated by the opinions of others. He cannot be distracted by toxic comparisons. He walks with clear direction. A man with direction is always richer than a man who is confused, regardless of how much money is in the bank. Because true wealth begins with mental clarity. You've started to control where your attention goes, and that gives you incredible power. While others are dragged around by every notification, every drama, every artificial emergency, you stay focused on what builds your future. You now understand, focus is a superpower, and distraction is a silent thief, and you're no longer willing to let that thief rob you of your destiny. You've learned this fundamental truth. 1 hour spent deliberately building your future is worth more than an entire year spent wishing things would change on their own. And because you've seen this truth with your inner eyes, you've begun to protect your time like a priceless treasure. You say no more often now, not out of arrogance or pride, but out of sacred alignment with your mission. Because you understand that every no spoken to distraction is a powerful yes spoken to your destiny. You've become allergic to empty conversations, to mindless scrolling, to entertainment that doesn't feed your mind. You're no longer available to people who drain your spirit and cloud your focus. You now understand, energy is sacred and attention is pure wealth. The man who can control his attention will always control his results. Fourth sign, long-term vision and systemic thinking. You've started thinking long-term, and that, my friend, is a monumental sign of transformation. You no longer live in the emotional impulse of the moment. You don't make decisions based on passing feelings. You've begun to build systems instead of chasing random results. You think in years and decades, not in days and weeks. You're no longer just chasing immediate income. You're building wealth infrastructures that will continue working even while you sleep. You're now creating assets of all kinds. Assets of character, no one can take those from you. Assets of skill, ones that grow the more you use them. Assets of value that serve others while enriching your own life. You've become the kind of man who asks not, how does this make me feel right now, but rather, how will this reward me 5, 10, 20 years from now? That shift in time perspective, even if it seems small, is actually the foundation upon which empires are built. Because empires aren't built in a day, they're built one day at a time, with decisions that compound over time. You've learned to delay gratification, not as punishment, but as investment, not as sacrifice, but as strategy. And this ability to see beyond the immediate is what separates wealth builders from wealth consumers. Fifth sign, a new sacred relationship with money. Your relationship with money has completely changed, and that is a sign of deep inner growth. Where once you feared money like a cruel master, you now respect it as a powerful tool. Where once you desired it desperately, you now attract it naturally. You finally understand, money is a loyal servant, not a tyrannical master. It amplifies your nature, but it will never save your soul. And most importantly, you now see money as the natural result of the value you create, not just a reward for effort. You've stopped trading your precious hours linearly for dollars and started multiplying your value through intelligent leverage, innovative ideas, and systems that work for you. This is true wealth consciousness. You've realized that wealth is not a number in a bank account. It's a mindset, a way of thinking, a way of being. And your mindset is no longer poor. Poor minds blame circumstances. They complain about problems and wait for someone to save them. But rich minds create solutions, solve problems, and take initiative. You've stopped blaming your past for your present. You've stopped waiting for someone else's permission to begin. And you've stopped looking for external signs to confirm what you already know inside. Now, you are the sign. You are the one who moves first. You are the one who says it begins with me. That is authentic power, and power always comes before prosperity. Sixth sign, the sacred obsession with continuous growth. You are now obsessed with growth, but it is not a sick, frantic obsession. It is sacred. It is noble. It pulls you toward excellence. You read more, not out of obligation, but out of hunger. You learn more, not from duty, but from delight. You ask deeper questions, not to sound smart, but to become wise. You are systematically replacing toxic gossip with constructive mentorship, replacing sterile complaints with concrete commitments, replacing endless theory with imperfect yet real execution. And that execution, even when it's messy, is producing something priceless: momentum. Momentum is the greatest asset of a man pursuing wealth, not speed, which burns out quickly, but momentum, which builds steadily. Every disciplined day you accumulate, every focused hour you complete, every hard decision you carry through adds weight to your character. And that weight creates gravity. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. And when the world senses your seriousness, it adjusts accordingly. And you are becoming serious now. Not serious in mood, which would be heaviness, but serious in mission, which is power. You no longer panic when things go wrong. You've stopped crafting elaborate excuses. You walk like someone who expects to win, because you've already won in your mind. Seventh sign, the profound transformation of your language. Your language is changing, and that is a sign of immense power. You no longer say, "I can't," "maybe," or "hopefully." You now speak with unwavering conviction, "I will," "I am," "it is done." You've removed doubt from your vocabulary like a surgeon removing a tumor. You've stopped repeating failure stories like a broken record. You've turned your voice into a tool for positive prophecy. You're narrating your future like an architect describing his blueprint. And when a man commands his language with that kind of precision, he commands his reality. Your words are no longer random or unconscious. They are deliberate and charged with intention. You've learned that words create worlds, and you are building a world of abundance with every sentence you speak. You've also made peace with silence, because now you know not every battle deserves your voice. But when you speak with the authority of someone who knows what they're talking about, someone who owns their path, someone who shapes their world, one word at a time. Eighth sign, the natural evolution of your circle. Your social circle is changing naturally, like a river finding its course. You're not cutting people off. You're not judging from a place of superiority. You're simply outgrowing certain kinds of conversations and certain levels of thinking. You're gradually leaving behind communities rooted in comfort and complaint, not because you think you're better, but because you're building something greater. And you need energy aligned with that vision. You now understand this fundamental law: proximity is power, and poverty of mindset is as contagious as a virus. So you've started to position yourself deliberately in environments where excellence is the norm, not the exception. You've learned that you don't have to be the smartest man in the room. You just have to be in rooms where smart men are speaking. You've started to surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, not those who validate your stagnation. You've become a student of wealth in all its forms, not just income, but principles, energy, spiritual legacy. You're no longer just looking for ways to make money. You're building a philosophy of life, a system of values, a personal code of honor. And the people around you, they're starting to change too, not by force, but by resonance, like frequency finding harmony. Ninth sign, the transformational power of adversity. Adversity no longer breaks you, it builds you, like steel forged in fire. Where you once collapsed under pressure, now you rise through resistance. You finally understand that every obstacle is actually disguised training. You've stopped resenting failure like it's an enemy and started using it as a strict but wise teacher. You no longer run from pain, you transform it. You extract the hidden wisdom within it, and you use it as fuel for your inner engine. This ability to turn the lead of adversity into the gold of experience, that's the mark of someone destined to handle great wealth. Because wealth requires a strong container, and that container is character. You've learned to interpret all pain as preparation. You've become an alchemist, turning resistance into results, loss into leverage, delay into direction. Excellence has become your default state, not something you chase when you feel like it, but something you embody even when it's hard. Now you welcome the fire because you've learned to walk through it without losing yourself. In fact, you emerge stronger every time. The world throws challenges at you, and you answer with discipline, resilience, and unshakable clarity. This is the mindset of a master, and you're stepping fully into it. 10th sign, integrity as an unshakable foundation. You are becoming a man of your word in the deepest sense possible. Not just someone who keeps promises to others, but someone who keeps promises to himself. You finish what you start, even when no one's watching. You show up even when motivation is gone and only commitment remains. You're becoming the kind of man the universe can trust with increasing responsibility, and trust always precedes the transfer of wealth. This is a spiritual law, immutable and absolute. When the universe can trust you, wealth will find you naturally, because wealth is energy, and energy always flows toward structure, order, and reliability. When you build a structure through consistent habits, clear vision, authentic service, and unshakable constancy, abundance begins to move toward you. Not because you manipulated the system, but because you became part of the system, the natural system of abundance. You no longer need external validation to act with excellence. You no longer need applause to stay committed. You've anchored your identity to something stronger, unshakable integrity. That's not just a trait, that's a foundation. And on that foundation, empires are built. 11th sign, you lead without needing to command. Here is a sign that few recognize, yet it reveals everything. You lead without needing to command. You no longer chase influence, yet you are being watched. You no longer beg to be heard, yet your presence speaks volumes. Without raising your voice, people feel your direction. Without demanding attention, your alignment draws eyes and hearts toward you. You've stopped trying to convince and started to embody. Because embodiment is the most powerful language there is. Leadership is no longer a role you strive for, it's a frequency you radiate. When you walk into a room, you don't need to dominate it. You stabilize it. You elevate it. You bring clarity where there was confusion. This shift didn't come from ego. It came from mastery, from years of inner work, discipline, and alignment. You now understand, true power doesn't shout. It resonates. And when you resonate with purpose, with vision, with truth, the world feels it, and the right people rise around you. You've become magnetic, not because you're chasing anyone, but because you've become someone worth following. This is the mark of a man who is no longer trying to arrive. He knows he already is. No crown is needed, no permission required. You lead now because you've aligned with something greater than yourself, and that is enough. Final sign, the transformation of identity. If you're seeing all these signs, it means your fundamental identity is changing. You no longer say, "I'm trying," with hesitation. You now say, "I'm becoming," with confidence. You no longer whisper, "Maybe one day." You now declare, "It's already done. I'm just catching up to it." You walk as if it's already completed. You work as if it's already promised. You plan as if your vision is already real. And this inner shift is exactly what the world responds to. Energy never lies. When your mind is truly made up, reality bends to align. Even in silence, you're building. You no longer need constant feedback to know you're on the right path. You've developed the habit of showing up, even when no one notices. You've divorced the need for external approval. You've become your own source of accountability and standards. You no longer chase identity, you live it. You no longer ask, "Who do I want to be?" You embody the answer right now. That is the final sign. The world didn't change, you did, and now the world must follow. Let me tell you a truth that few have the courage to speak out loud. If you're still seeing these signs, and especially if you're living them actively in your daily life, then wealth is no longer just a possibility for you. It has become a mathematical inevitability. Why? Because you've already become the type of man wealth was designed to serve. You no longer need to chase riches, like a beggar hoping for a random blessing. You've earned the sacred right to expect prosperity, not out of arrogant entitlement, but through deep alignment with the universal laws of abundance. Your thoughts, your decisions, your daily actions, your personal standards, they now reflect wealth at the deepest level of your being. You've made peace with constructive solitude. Where once you feared being alone with your thoughts, now you consider it a sacred privilege. Solitude has become your spiritual workshop, your mental training ground, your visionary drawing board, your altar of personal refinement. The man who can sit in silence and build in darkness is the man who can handle abundance in the light. Most people fear silence because it forces them to face themselves. But you have faced yourself, and you did not flinch. You grew. And, my dear friend, the man you are now, disciplined like a monk, aligned like an arrow, clear as crystal, and evolving like nature itself, is exactly the man universal wealth has always been searching for. You no longer have to convince anyone of your value. You no longer have to beg for recognition. You no longer have to wait for someone else to grant you permission to prosper. You now walk with the authority of someone who knows success is inevitable, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment with higher laws that govern abundance. The world might not notice today. It might not applaud you tomorrow, but wealth has already taken note of you. It has already written your name on its list. It's already moving pieces on the universal chessboard to meet you at the perfect time. If this message touched your soul and echoed your deepest truth, then subscribe now to Napoleon Hill Mastermind Journeys and turn on that bell, because what I share here is not abstract theory. It is a practical map for real transformation. And now I ask you, which of these 11 signs do you recognize most clearly in your life right now? What is the most powerful transformation you are living as you hear these words? Comment below with total honesty, because your authentic story might be exactly the spark another man was waiting for to finally begin his own journey toward the wealth he deserves. And remember this fundamental truth: you are not here by random chance. You are here because your destiny of prosperity is calling you louder than ever, and now is the moment to answer that call with everything you've got inside you.